Aloha, Richard Halverson here. This is ICS321, and we're on video 14 today. This is July 7th, and let's see, let me share my screen. I think I'm going to share number 1 here. All right, I'm going to put this over here. And okay, so today, I didn't get a chance to plan too much because I actually had a meeting yesterday at 6:30 Hawaii time, and I'm in Minnesota, so that was 11:30 Minnesota time, and I was up until 1 o'clock. Anyway, it is 2:30 in the afternoon here, but I know it's only 9:30 there. But anyway, I kind of wanted to have some Python that I could show you, and I do have some Python, but I'm not ready to show it to you yet. So today I'd like to just go over maybe assignment 7, because that was posted July 1st. I guess I had it set to post July 1st. So let's look at the we are actually in chapter 5. The last 2 sections of chapter 5 are this database programming in Python and in PHP. And the Python is going to be pretty close to what the Python discussed in this book is going to be pretty close to the Python that I will show you next time. And we'll get it running on our server. There's a bunch of permissions and so on that have to be set exactly right. And I have to remind myself of those each time. And then there's a section on PHP, and I'd like you to go through this and just answer to be able to answer do the participation activities. And if there's any challenge exercises at the end to do those, are there? Yeah, I guess there are. Just so you can get familiar. Oh wait, this is just to get familiar with this and this kind of notation, because this is a popular and common. But in our assignments, we're going to do it. We're doing it a little bit differently. We're doing it a little bit like the old way. And so I'll kind of go over this today. But let's see, for our assignments, we have gone through, last time with assignment 5, I did start I did last time. I believe I did cover the SQL and Queen Anne. I didn't cover the procedures, but so why don't I think, let me ask you, would it be more, would you rather see me create some triggers, or do a trigger or a store procedure exercise, or would you rather at this time maybe go through chapter or assignment 7 and cover some of the stuff that's on the server? Do you have any preference?
Actually, either would be useful for me.
Okay. Well, then maybe I'll do it in order, and I'll do the assignment, the earlier assignment first, and then when I'm next time I'll be able to, for example, post this up on my server, and then I can show you a Python version too, so we can compare them. Okay. So okay, good, great. So if we go back to assignment 5, creating the database should be pretty easy for you. Queen Anne procedures. Let's take a look at this and see what. Let's see what how far we get here. Okay, so let's see. Do I have? I think I might have Queen Anne set up already. Let me look at my. Open up this one. This one. Where's my that? Okay. So if I go to mine, let me just go to. I guess I'll use this one. Sure. cPanel. And let's see, let's look at Queen. Oh. So first of all, let me take a look and see what I've got here for databases. Queen Anne is QACS, and we should have this. This is the database, and so I'm going to assume you've created the database already. And let me what's the best way to do this? Let's see, I've got procedures. There's a Queen Anne procedure here, and Queen Anne tables, and the tables are stored procedures. I guess I can just delete what I have. So you, I guess, are going to, you will have created the tables in a previous. Let's see, I got to make sure I'm doing the right thing here. This is the student looking one. Make this bigger. So, yeah, okay, so in assignment 4, you've created the database. And why don't I take my assignment 4 here, and then I'm going to, I guess I'll just start with, sorry, I'm confusing you right now. Okay, so we'll start here. We've already created the database and implement a trigger called this in this table. And the trigger below will auto increment the sale item ID field when inserting a new record. The trigger has access to the incoming fields and properties as properties of an object called new. And so, and we're supposed to name the trigger that. When an insertion into sale item is about to take place, the trigger will first search the sale item table for the maximum sale ID field. For all the records with that look like that, where the sale ID is equal to new sale ID, this is, and sale item ID, the sale item ID value for the new record to be inserted then will be the maximum of that. If the max returns a null value, that means there is no sale item, and then the sale item ID can be 1. And so let's look at sale item. And where is, so we're talking about the sale item table right here. And so this is what the table looks like. And so if we look back here, the sale item, okay, so there's no auto increment or anything here. So we have a sale ID and a sale item ID. Okay, so this is like an invoice, and the invoice itself has got a sale ID, and then there's items, and this is the sale item table. So there's a sale table, and this one is probably auto increment. Yeah, so there's a sale table, and then for each sale record, for each sale record, there can be several sale items. So for example, for sale ID number 1, let's look in here. Sale ID number 1 has got 2 items in it. It's got an item, sale item ID number 1 and a sale item ID number 2. I see. So what this is supposed to do is when you insert a new sale item for a sale into this table, you want to figure out what the highest sale item ID is for records that go along with that sale, and then you want the next sale item ID to be the next one. So if we were to add another sale item for sale number 1, we would want that new item to be number 3. See, and so all this trigger does is takes care of that. So it's kind of like an auto increment. So you're like implementing an auto increment manually because we aren't you can't set up an auto increment because it depends on what the sale, the next number in the series depends on what the sale ID is. So right now there probably already is a trigger in here. Let's look at triggers. And yes, there is a sale item ID trigger here. And let's just take a look at it. We can click on export here. This is already in there. And it looks like this. And I'm gonna see, does this look the same as, it looks like that. And what is the one? Okay, I see we're supposed to enhance this. So let me I'm just going to cheat here, and I'm going to copy this out because this is the answer. I'm going to copy this because I'm going to go through this with you. Here, let me just copy it, and I'm going to paste it over into my favorite. Oops, didn't copy. Oh, I'm going to go over here. Close this. This is exactly what it's going to look like. I'm going to copy this, copy, and paste it here. So I'm just going to set this aside. All right, and I'm going to delete this. I'm going to drop it. Can I rename it? I'll just drop it. Okay, so I'm starting over again. So let me not this. It's this. Okay, so this is the starting. This is like a starter for you. And what this does is that this, first of all, grabs it selects the maximum sale item ID from the maximum sale item ID from the sale item table, where the sale ID is equal to the sale ID that's coming in. So it's kind of like if you were to, in this sale item table right now, if you were to insert something like, let's do a sale item, let's do an item ID number 3 or something. Insert into sale item, sale ID, we can say, let's do sale item ID number 1. And we already know that there's a 1 and a 2. Let's try doing a 1 again. And I'm just going to throw anything in there. It's one of these. And I'm going to say it's $50 or something. And I say go. And it's a duplicate entry because it is set up so the primary key is both these two together. See, there's the gold key here is this plus this, so that's the primary key. It's a composite primary key, and of course you can't. There already is a 1-1 in there, so it didn't work. What does work is a 1-3. See, there's a 1 1-1 and 1-2, but there is no 1-3. So we could enter in a 1-3. So, but what we want our trigger to do is we say the sale ID, and then the trigger takes care of figuring out what the sale item ID is, and then we go ahead and enter the item ID and the price. So and we are given this to start with. So this goes and finds the current maximum sale item ID for the sale item, for the particular sale ID, and it tests it. If it comes back null, then we know this is the first one to be put in there. So it sets the sale item ID for the new record coming in to whatever the maximum sale ID is +1. But the thing is that the trigger does not consider the case where there are no records. And if there's no records, oh, yeah, we aren't considering the case where the max sale item ID is null. See, it doesn't do anything. If the maximum sale item ID is null, it doesn't set sale item ID, and so we have to modify this code so it does set it. So let me so I'm going to start. Okay, so let's start by making a new trigger. Okay, so here I am. I'm in sale item ID. No, I'm in sale item, the table sale item, and I'm going to create a new trigger. And let's create a new trigger. And we're supposed to name the new trigger this. Copy, paste. So that's the name of the trigger. It's for this table. It's a before trigger, so it does it before the insertion is made. And it's an insert trigger. It's not an update trigger or a delete trigger. It's an insert trigger. And we're going to start out with this code. So I'm going to copy this code and I'm going to put it in here. I'm going to open this up a little bit. And so what we have here now, you know, oops. Now I wonder if we can, how do you, I'm going to try to declare, I'm just messing around here. I'm going to do it a different way. So I'm going to declare a new variable called that, and then I'm going to use this. Well, wait a minute. First of all, I'm going to test this to see if it works. So I'm going to save this, go. And so I've got a trigger in there now. That's the trigger. And so now when I enter in a new sale item for sale number 1, this should work. So I'm going to try it. So here is my table, and I'm going to enter in a sale ID number 1. I'm going to leave the sale item ID blank because it's going to take care of it. And then I'm going to say the item ID is something bigger and the item price is something different. So I'm going to try to insert. And I'm going to say the sale ID is 1. And the sale item ID is, I'm just going to leave it at 1. Doesn't matter because it's going to fix it. And I'm going to say the item ID is, I don't know, bookshelf. And I'm going to say the bookshelf costs, I don't know, $10 or whatever. And I'm going to insert this. And what happens? It's going to insert this sale ID of 1, sale item ID of 1, item ID of 8, and item price is 10. And it inserted it. It looks like it inserted it already. So let's see what did it insert it already? It says 1 row inserted, so it must have done it already. So I'm going to click on browse here to go back to this, and here we have a item 1, and so you see it incremented the sale item ID. It inserted a 3. It inserted a 3 instead of the 1 that we had it, and it was item number 8, and it was for $10. So now the problem is, let's see, sale ID, okay, 14, 15. So now the problem is if I do sale item ID 16, so let's try that. I'm going to insert sale item ID of 16. Where is it? Oh, I guess I can't do that because, let me look. Okay, let me look at sales. Sale ID 15. I'm gonna modify this database, this table a little bit. I think I would have to enter in a new sale. How would I do that? Okay, I'm gonna try to enter in a new sale just to see what happens. Insert a new sale, and I'm gonna this should be taken care of automatically. Customer ID doesn't matter. Employee ID doesn't matter. Sale ID is today. And the subtotal is something. I don't know. Subtotal is $15. Tax is $1. Total is $16. Let's see what happens. Okay, so that's fine. Now I have a new. Oh, let's look at, oh, there's a 20. What happened? How did the 25 get there? Oh, I know. The reason the 25 is there is because it auto incremented. Because that's what the auto increment was. Can I go back? Oh, I guess I can't go back. Okay. And so the reason it's 25 is because if we actually look at the structure here and we look at the auto increment value, next auto increment is 26. So the next one that's gonna go in is 26. So in fact, we can change this if you want to. How do you change it? You go to operations and you can just change the auto increment value if you want to. And in fact, I think, well, that's okay. All right, so now we have in sale item, if we want, there's a sale ID of 25. So now if you want to insert something in here, 25 is available to us. And I'm gonna what happens if I leave it blank? Item ID of this, $10. And what happens if I click on this? A blank was inserted in there. What does it say? 0. Okay, so that's not a good sale item ID. It should be it should be 1. If there's no sale items, if there's no items in the sale item table, if there's no items for sale ID number 25 in the sale item table, then the first sale item that goes in for that sale, for sale number 25, should be 1. And it wasn't. And so we want to modify the trigger. So if there is no sale items there is no sale items for a sale, then it's going to set the first sale item to a 1. So let's so I'm going to delete this. And I'm going to go back to the trigger. And I'm going to edit the trigger. And what we have here now is, this is the, and what I was going to do is I was going to use declare max ID or something. And I'm going to set this, well, I'll just set it the same as this. Now, all I'm doing right now is instead of using this way, putting an @ sign in front of there to declare a new variable, I'm going to declare a new variable this way because this is more standard. So I'm going to put this one here instead. And then if this is equal to null, then this is equal to this plus 1. Okay, so if max sale ID is not null, then do this. Otherwise, if it is null, and I think we can do that just by going else, if it is null, I don't need the F, else if, then just set new sale item ID equal 1. That's all. This is all we have to do. Put a semicolon after that, and then we have the end if. So let's see if this works. So I'm going to save it. Oh, I have an error. I'm going to take this back out of there again. I can fool around with that later. So for some reason, it didn't like that declare. All right, so so now let's go back and try to insert a sale item. Yeah, it's okay. And so I'm going to set now 25 is available, and I'm going to just leave it blank, and I'm going to insert this, and I'm going to insert whatever, and I click go, and we see this time it actually inserted it as 1. One other thing I'm going to do real quick here, which you don't have to do, I'm going to go back here and go to sale. I'm going to look at sale, and I'm going to get rid of this last 25, and I want to set the next auto index to 16. So I'm going to get rid of this, which I think I can, and I'm going to go back to the structure. No, I'm going to go to operations, and I'm going to set the auto increment to 16. So now when I insert a new sale, leave it blank, customer ID this, employee ID somebody, sale date can be today, subtotal, I don't know, 15, whatever, 16. And so now when this goes in, we have a sale item 16. So that's how that works. All right, so that was pretty easy. So let's look at the next one. This is pretty simple here. All right, so here we have a store procedure. This one looks a lot more difficult, doesn't it? Okay, so complete the store procedure, add sale. And so for this store procedure, you enter in a customer ID, you enter in an employee ID, sale date, an item ID, and this other stuff here. Subtotal is returned, total is returned, error code, and a message. Okay, for a new sale, customer ID must be specified. These fields must be specified, and then a new record is inserted into the sale table. And when the item is added, and then then the item itself, there's an item along with it, gets added to the sale item table. So this thing does two things. We're creating a new sale, and we are it checks to see if it's a new sale. If it's a new sale, then it adds it into the sale table, and then it adds it into to the sale item table. But if the sale item already exists, then only the sale. Okay. If the sale already exists, then we just specify the existing sale ID and the item ID and the tax rate. Because the customer ID and the employee ID and the sale date have already been recorded because it's an already existing sale. And then all this takes place. Okay. Can you hold on just a second? I gotta hold on a second. All right, I feel better. Okay, all right. So okay, so in this one, we're given the store procedure. We're given a lot of the store procedure, but there are these blank lines, and I think I actually give you what. So this is kind of a puzzle, and so you can do process of elimination and so on to figure this one out. But so let's start out here, and I'm just gonna. I guess we're creating this from scratch. So let me go back to my stored. It's a stored procedure, and look at all these stored procedures here. What am I? What's the name of this one? Let me get this straight. This one is called add sale. So I'm gonna add sale. Look at all these add sales I have in here. I'm gonna drop this one here, and I'm gonna start over. Okay, no more add sale. Okay, so let's create a new store procedure called add sale. New, add routine. All right, here we go. And I'm gonna have to so you can see that add sale. Oh, that's not the right one. This is the right one. And I'm gonna put this, let's see, how can I do this? What happens if I just take all of this? I'm gonna take all of this down to here. I'll copy this, and I'm gonna put it in here. And I'm gonna make this a comment because this does not go here. Yeah, right. So now I don't think this is gonna work, but I'm gonna just see if it does. I'm gonna click go just to see if it accepts it. Oh. What am I missing? Missing value in form. Well, anyway, I'll just, okay, so we've got let me go back. Let me just use this. We have customer ID is an in, so I can do customer ID. Customer ID is an in, and it's an integer. And add parameter. Then we have another in, which is employee ID. I'm just going to copy this and put it there. And it is an integer. And then we have another input, which is the sale date. And that is a type date. So I'm going to make this date. And we have another input, and that is a item ID. And that is an integer. So it's an integer. And then we have another input, and that's called the tax rate. And it is a decimal 6,3, decimal 6,3. And then we have an in out. So let's add a parameter. We have an in out. And that is the sale ID. Okay, yeah. So if it is a new sale, it's going to give you back the sale ID, the new sale ID. If it's if it's a new sale, it'll insert the new sale and give you back what the sale ID was. Because you remember sale ID is auto incremented, and you don't know what it is until it tells you. And if it's an existing sale already, and you're just adding a sale item to a particular sale, then this is an input. So that's that. And then we have an output, which would be the new, which would be the subtotal. It's a new subtotal. And that's going to be a decimal 8,2, decimal 8,2. And then we have another output called total. And that is also a decimal 8,2, 8,2. And then we have another output called error, which is an error code, and that's an integer called ERR in this case. It's an integer. And then we have another output variable called MSG, and that's varchar 500. So another output, MSG, and that's varchar 500 or whatever. Okay. And now I'm going to try hitting go and see what happens. Ooh, big error. Okay, yeah, because there's a bunch of missing stuff. Okay, let's just keep on going here. Now, when you're doing this, you may want to, as you're going along and you're trying to get this thing to work, you know, you're hitting go a bunch of times and it's always doing this. And when it does this, it doesn't save it. So you may want to get into the habit of just having a little text editor here, having a blank sheet. And every now and then, if you're getting frustrated and you want to figure stuff out, you can just copy the whole thing out and paste it into your thing here, your text editor thing here. And then that way, you know, at least you have it, you know, at least you have it while you're trying to figure out what the, while you're trying to figure out what the problem is, until you can finally hit go and it'll accept it. You know, if you want to hit go and it accepts it, it might not be correct, like your code might not be correct, but at least it's syntactically correct and the system accepted it. So we aren't at the syntactically correct yet system accepting it. So let's see what's next here. Okay, so customer ID, employee, these are the inputs, okay? And so we declare this exception handler, and can you read this? Let me just try to make this bigger. So we have, this is the exception handler, and so whenever there's an error down here, then this thing is invoked, and it sets the message thing here where there already is going to be a value for message, and then it concatenates this onto it, which gives a bunch of information. This is like an error message, and then it also concatenates this onto it. Rollback, a new invoice was not started, or whatever. And then that's message is probably displayed. So anyway, this is the exception. This is an exception handler, goes up at the top, and we'll just leave that there. Looks good. So we set ERR equal to 0. We set MSG equal to 0. And if the customer ID is greater than 0 and the employee ID is greater than 0, then, oh, replace this. Oh, I'm supposed to figure out what these are supposed to be, aren't I? Okay, so let me go down to, let me go to here. So we're setting, okay, when the customer, okay, let's see what, so when the customer ID is equal to 0, well, let's see what our options are. Okay, what we're doing here is this, this is set, the error code is set, and the message is set, because if this insert does not work, then then this is the error code and this is the error message. So we have to set the error code and the error message first in case the next SQL statement does not work. Because if this next SQL statement does not work, then an exception, then there's an exception, the exception handler is invoked, and the error code and the error message are set already. So what is the error message when this insert does not work? Well, let's see. This insert new sale into the sale table, and we have to fill that in too. So let's figure out what that is. Insert new sale into the sale table. That must be this. So we're going to try to insert a new sale into the sale table, and we're going to try to insert a new sale item into that. Oh, we're going to try to set. I guess it's just this one, maybe. Insert new sale into sale table. So that's got to be this. Insert this sale into the sale table. So this one's, I'm going to copy this, copy, and I'm going to paste it here. I'll just leave that comment there. I'm just going to leave it there for whatever reason. Okay, so this is the, and so this error message and this error code and this error message would be the error code and the error message if the sale, if this thing fails. And I suppose this thing would fail if maybe there was no if the wrong customer ID or wrong employee ID or something. So let's go back to here and error inserting sale. Customer ID is that, okay, so there was an error. Oh, something doesn't exist. Either the customer ID or the employee ID does not exist. So this is the error message. So this is what we want to copy this, copy, and that goes here. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do this. And so well, so I'll just get rid of this here. Okay, so this replaces what was there. And then we want to retrieve the auto incremented sale ID after the insert. So after the insert, we want to retrieve the auto incremented sale ID. And how do we do that? I think one of these is this. Select this one. This is it. So this one, copy. This goes. Okay, so this is going to select the, so when this executes, then as you recall, sale ID is an auto increment. And so when this executes, sale ID gets auto incremented, and then this thing is going to grab out what that new auto incremented value is. Select that. And this doesn't go here. This goes here. Obviously, you got to have someplace to put it. So that's what that is. Sale ID equals this. You execute this, it's going to return a scalar value, and that's going to be stored in here. And then when it's done, since we got to this point, and then we get to this point, then everything was fine. There was no error, and there is no error message, so we can set these values back to 0. So up here, we set the error message, we set the error code, and then we set the error message in case this fails. And if we make it all the way to here and that executes perfectly well, then then there was no error and there doesn't need to be an error message, so we can set this back to 0 and set this back to blank. Okay, and then we're done. Now I hope I got everything here. Okay, so sale. Okay, so that inserts the sale. Okay, now get the price from the item table. So here we're gonna select the price for the item, and there's an item ID. So let's go down back to here and select the price for an item ID. Oh, look, that looks like this one. So this must be select the item price where the item is equal to the item ID that came in. So that must be what goes right here. So select the item price from the item table where the item ID is equal to what comes in here. And that's going to return a scalar value, and that scalar value is going to be stored in there. Now, if the item price is null, that means that the item was not in there. And if the item was not in there, then we have an error. So, so we want to set the error message. Just, well, I guess that's what we want to do. We want to set the error message to whatever the error is when the item doesn't exist. So let's look here. Sale, no, not that one. Item ID does not exist, right? That's what we're doing, right? Yeah, we're looking for the price of an item, and if it comes back null, that means the item wasn't in there. That means the item doesn't exist. So that means it must be this. So I'm going to take this, copy it, and then I'm going to put that right here. Paste. Wait a minute, what happened? Got rid of the else too. There we go. Getting late. All right, so that's there. Otherwise, the item does exist, and we can all right, so okay, so if we get here, the item does exist. So now we're going to insert that item into the sale item table. The item exists, we have a price, and now we got to insert that into the item table, sale item table, to go along with the sale that we just, we created the sale, go along with the sale. And so what we want to put here is the error code and the error message if the insertion fails. And then if the insertion passes and we end up down here, then we can set them back to 0 and blank again. So what's the error message? What's the error code and the error message if the sale item insertion fails? What is that? Well, it's probably the last one here. I guess it must be that. I guess it must be sale. I guess it must be this one, a sale item. I guess the only, by process of elimination, the only error, the only reason that it would not, the only reason, okay, we have a, okay, so, if the customer ID is equal to 0 and the employee ID okay, if the customer ID equals 0 or the employee ID equals 0, then this should be, well, yeah, if one of them, if they're not equal to 0, then that means that it passed in a sale ID. Okay, so it passed in a sale ID. So if it passes in a sale ID, it does not have to pass in a customer ID or an employee ID. So the sale ID must exist. So this is skipped. This is skipped. And we're down here and we get the item price and then we try to insert this. We try to insert the item. We try to insert the item in the sale item table for this sale. And the only way it won't work at this point is if the sale ID is wrong. If that sale ID, if there's no sale associated with that sale ID. So that must be what that error is. So that's what this has got to be set to. And that would be this. Sale ID does not exist. Hope this is making some sense. So I'm going to get rid of this. This is insert item into sale item table. And inserting the item into this, insert this one, it's this one. So this is insert into the sale item table. Okay, so that inserts it in. So if this fails, then the error code is set, the error message is set, it goes up to here, and exception handler, it ends up returning the error message and so on. But if this is successful, then this thing executes, and what this thing does is it sets the error code back to 0, sets the error message back to blank, and all is fine. Okay, what's next? We want to we want to figure out what the subtotal is. So that must be this one of these. Must be this one. We're summing up all of the item prices for from the sale item table. We're summing up all the item prices from the sale item table for that particular sale. So that must be this. Copy. So that would go in right here. Select the sum of the item prices from the sale item table where this, for that sale ID, this is going to return a single value. And so that gets stored into there. And then computes a tax rate, computes the tax by taking the tax rate divided by 0 times the subtotal, gives you a tax, and then adds a tax onto the subtotal, giving you a total. And then we want to update the subtotal, tax, and total in the sale record. So, the sale record keeps track of the subtotal, the tax, and the total. And so this thing has to update that. And so that would be update. This updates the sale table. It updates the subtotal, the tax, and the total. So let me copy this. Put it over here. And then this prints it out. Oh, but I don't need this. All right, so did we do everything? I think we used them all. Well, all right, so now the big test is, can I go? It worked. It accepted it. Okay, so we have add sale. There it is. Here it is. Now, well, I guess I can just test it with my SU21 and put me in here. And we were doing, okay, we're doing both these two. So let's first see if, well, let's see if the trigger test passes. Error. Duplicate entry for 16. Well, anyway, let's go back. I don't know why that didn't pass, but let's see what this one does. Okay, it looks like my store procedure works. That's great. Now let me just real quick, I want to go back and see why this, I want to see why this doesn't work. And it's because of duplicate entry for 16 primary. Right. I'm going to go to sale, add sale item. No. Sale item, trigger. Let me go back to browse. Duplicate entry for 16. Sale. Let me get rid of this one. Let me just try this again. All right, I guess that worked. All right, well, we're at the end of the hour here, and I guess I got you through this assignment. Hope this
Thank
helped.
you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, I will see you next week. I hope to be in better sleeping hours, and
Oh yeah.
I'll get the Python working for next week. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. Take
Yep.
care.
Thank you. Thanks
Bye,
for watching.
thank you.